Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful, beautiful fam. Hello. How's everybody doing this morning? I'm so happy to be back. Good morning, delicious dia. Thank you for joining. You guys, I had such a great weekend. Good morning, Ash. Good morning, Shay. Hey, everybody. Good morning, Ace. Good morning, Jay. Got your coffee this morning? How's everybody doing? Let me turn this around so you can see my Crush logo. I'm going to turn this around so you can see my Crush logo. Good morning, Sarah. How you doing, sis? I think you're moderating today. I don't know. I'm just gonna assume that you are. Good morning, Vanessa. I had such a great weekend, you guys. I just got back really late last night. Good morning, Dominic. Good morning, Angelique. Hi, sis. Everybody's good. That's so good to hear. So good to hear. I just got back from Wisconsin visiting my love. And it was so good. You guys, I didn't want to come home. I wanted to stay. It's so hard to say goodbye. This is the hard thing about long distance relationships, is that you have to say goodbye. And saying goodbye is really challenging. And I met his dogs. You've joined my fan club for 100 days. What? That is so amazing. God is definitely showing out. Yay. He's a good father. Good morning, Alita. So I got home really late last night. I spent the whole day just being slow. I had a slow morning. I read, I had coffee, I got ready to go, and it's a long drive. It's 6 hours from where I am to where he is. But I had to make a few stops along the way. One of the things that I did was I sent off the jackets for Angelique and Juanita. So you guys should be getting your stuff this week. I'm so excited. I'm not really crazy about the US Postal Service, however, so I may have to change it in the future. I wasn't really thrilled about that experience. However, that's okay. Oh, and you guys, guess what I did? I made a stop at Michael's on my way because I had a few things to do, and I picked something up that I want to show you. We're just waiting for everybody to jump on this morning. We're going to be talking about when it feels like God is absent. When it feels like God is absent. Look what I found. Hi, good morning, Melly. Look at what I found yesterday at Michael's. Look at gorgeous palm tree. So I have made a decision. I have a jacket here right now. I'm going to show you this one. This jacket that I just made is going to be a palm tree jacket. I've already decided that I'm going to do this one with palm trees. So this is the beginning. How exciting is that? So it's going to be the first in the palm tree collection. I think I'm going to have a whole collection called the palm tree, and that's going to be the first one. So if somebody wants that jacket, you have to go to my link tree and just purchase it, and then you send me a message, or I'll send you a message, and we'll chat and we'll get it going. But that's going to be a palm tree one. I'm so excited. So anyway, I had a really slow day yesterday, and it was great. But I felt like an emotional hangover this morning. We aren't especially thrilled with our postal service either. Yeah, I was like, man, the guy was like, I have to be done by 4. So you're gonna have to hurry up. Like, he wasn't even nice. He was just, he was helpful, but he was rushing and he did things really messy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, anyway. And he wouldn't let me touch anything. Like, it was a whole situation. And normally I use UPS or FedEx. But I thought, well, I'll try the US Postal Service. Anyway, just for future reference, right? So I hope everything arrives in one piece. Good morning, Joni, from New York. You're coming in from New York? I love that. In fact, my partner and I were talking about New York, that we were like, where's a place that you would live? And he was like, I would love to live in New York. I was like, really? Okay. We were doing like, where are the top 3 places that you would live? We were playing all these fun games. Anyway, so I had a great visit. We did all kinds of fun things, but one of the things we did was just sit around. We sat around the campfire. You guys, when you're dating somebody at the very beginning, you have to spend a lot of time just sitting and talking. You're from Long Island. That sounds so like fun. I'm from Long Island, New York. I could be from New York. Good morning, Guy. Good morning, Ellen. And so we sat around, I'm not even joking, for like 3 days, and we just talked. We would sit at the fire. He has like a fire pit, and we sat at the fire pit in the evening and we just chatted. And he has this screened in area that has like a TV and a fireplace, and it's outside, but it's inside. And we sat in there and we had heated blankets and we had the fire on, and we sat and we talked. Good morning, Shelbs. And we just talked about everything. And I feel like we're so much more connected, because when you're doing a long distance relationship, it's challenging. And then on top of that, right, you're doing long distance, plus you're getting to know each other. And so it was just a really, really beautiful weekend. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, that we had a great weekend, because lots of people were messaging and watching my stories, and they're like, oh, you guys are so cute together, and I hope you're having a great time. And we had an incredible time. We really did. We were supposed to go for a boat ride on Saturday, but it was actually really cold on the lake. So we got all the way there, the boat, the dogs, everything, and we didn't end up going on the boat. We ended up just parking it and going back to his place because it was just too cold. It was like 70 degrees on land, and it was like 58 on the water before you get in the boat and go, right? And I said to him, I don't want to be cold. Yeah, campfires in Wisconsin go hand in hand, exactly. So it was a beautiful weekend, just to give you guys an update. So I left yesterday and I got home really late last night. Good morning, Jen Thomas, Realtor. And here we are this morning. So while I was driving, so whenever I'm coming up with the themes for these calls, I think about what the women in my community need. I think about the things that people are asking me, the questions that people are asking me, or the things that you guys are saying, or the messages that I'm getting in my DMs. So here's an invitation. If you have a question, or if you have a theme that you want me to do a live on, DM me. Just send me a message and say, hey, I want to do, I want to know about this, or can you do a live about this? And I will totally do for you guys. And make sure you share this out, okay? Share. All right? So it's important that you share, because what happens when you share is that other people are directed to the community and to the lives and to the feed. And it is an incredible way to grow our ministry and to grow this community. And there's nothing better than sharing or tagging somebody in the comments. So if you feel moved, if you are somebody who might find some kind of relevance in the message when it feels like God is absent, this would be a perfect time for you to share it out. So while I was driving home yesterday, I got one of my clients messaged me. She's like a client / friend / sister. So the women who work with me in my world, no, it was Lake Superior. The women who work with me in my world become friends. They become sisters. They become partners in crime with me. And so we stay in contact. And one of the women who I'm close to reached out to me yesterday, and she said, do you have a few minutes to jump on the phone? And I said, absolutely. I was driving, and so she and I jumped on the phone, and she's going through something really challenging right now. And I want you to listen in on this, because I feel like what I was saying her, I could say to everybody, which is why I decided to do this live today about when God feels absent. So she was telling me about the situation that she's going through, and I know all the details, and I'm not going to share the details. They're not mine to share. But she is feeling out of control. Have you ever felt out of control? Put a heart in the comments if you've ever felt like something that was so important to you, something that has a huge impact on your life, is completely out of your control. And you're trying your hardest, or you think you're trying your hardest. Let me correct that. You think you're trying your hardest to let go of control. You think that you're trying your hardest. You think that you're doing your best to surrender, to let go and let God. But the reality is, you want to control. You still want to control. So your language might sound like, I just feel so out of control. I'm doing everything that I can, and God is just not answering me. God's absent. He just feels so distant right now. Has anybody ever experienced that? I know I have. Put some hearts in the comments if you have ever felt like God was distant in a time when you needed him close. Oh man, I've been there. I've been there so many times. I've even been there recently. It comes and goes. And this is such a good time to check yourself, because the reality is he never leaves us, but we leave him. And so as she and I were talking, I could hear it in her language that things weren't going the way that she wanted them to go. They're not going on her timeline, and they're not going as per her plan. And she was, I think, probably hoping that I would jump on the phone with her and say, what the heck? That's terrible. What do you mean? This is all so awful. But I also know that she knows me better than that. And I listened to her. And after she was done, and what she's going through is really, really, really hard. And I said to her, God's not distant from you. You're distancing yourself from God because he's not obeying your command. You are telling him what you want. And thank you for the hearts, everybody. You're telling him what you want, and then you expect him to give it to you. But what you're forgetting is that's not how God operates. God operates on his timeline, not our timeline. And I reminded her of the story, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. We talked about the story of the father who had the son who was crippled. Remember that one? The son who was crippled, and he was having seizures all the time. He'd been like this since he was a child. The father was absolutely exhausted. And the disciples, remember this story? I don't remember exactly where it was in the Bible, but remember that the disciples were trying to heal the son, and it wasn't working. And they said, Father, can you come and help this boy? Because it's not working. We can't seem to heal him. And so Jesus went over and said to the father, how long has he been like this? And what has he done? And then Jesus just said to the boy, you're healed. And remember the boy it was the boy who had the demons, right? The demons of unwellness. I don't know exactly what it was. And he had like one last seizure, and the demon left. And then he got up and he was healed. And the disciples said to Jesus, why didn't it work for us? We tried to heal. This is such a good example of a story that you can use. When people feel like God is absent. So listen in. Listen to this. And they said, Teacher, why is it that you could heal him, but we couldn't? And do you guys remember what his answer was? For those of you who were watching, do you remember what Jesus said? He said, some miracles need more prayer. Some miracles need a different kind of prayer. Now, he didn't get into what that kind of prayer meant, but that was his answer. Some miracles need a different kind of prayer. So yesterday when I was talking to this dear, dear sister of mine on the phone, and she said, where is he? He feels so distant right now. And she was choked up and she felt like she was going to cry. And she said, I just feel like I'm going to have a breakdown. She said, I just feel like he's so absent. He's so far away. And she said, I'm feeling angry and frustrated. I said to her, you're not praying hard enough. You're getting further from him instead of going closer to him. Don't we do that? Don't we do that? When Jesus doesn't answer our call the way that we think he should, we get all up in our head. We get all egotistical, like we know better than he does. And I said to her, sis, I'm sorry, but you have to pray harder. You have to try harder. You have to go in closer. You have to ask for more. Maybe more clarity, maybe more energy, maybe more ability to surrender, because you're not surrendering. Even the fact, you guys listen, even the fact that you are upset and feeling frustrated because God's not coming in and answering the call the way that you want, you know what that means? That means that you're still hanging on. And when you hang on, that's energetically taxing. That's why you're tired. Because you want so badly, you're trying so hard, you're trying to manipulate things. You don't have to manipulate anything. Who here is guilty of trying to manipulate things right now? Let's get honest, put one in the comments. And it makes me think of things like when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he knew what was coming. He knew that the calling on his life was to be a sacrificial lamb thrown to the wolves to forgive our sins so we could have eternal life, so that we would always be forgiven. That our sins, so that the sins that we actually do today, commit today, were forgiven 2,000 years ago. And so in the Garden of Gethsemane, he says to God, if this cup can be passed from my hand, so be it. Like he didn't want to be the sacrificial lamb. And he struggled because it wasn't his timeline. It wasn't something that he could control. And so what did he have to do? He had to go back to God. He had to keep going back to God and get on his knees and pray because he knew it was coming. And see, it's not about the short timeline. It's about the big picture. See, the thing about God is that he works in big picture. We work in small picture. We work in, this is what I want right now. And he works in, this is what I'm giving you over your lifetime. Do you guys feel that right now? I feel that. Thank you, Warrior on Heels. Oh, you put your email in. Excellent. Amazing, amazing. So I'll talk about the call, the Awaken call a little bit later. But thank you. Hi, Susan. So it's really important for you to understand. It's important for us to remember that all of the energy that we put into making things happen on our timeline makes us feel tired. It makes us feel stressed. That's not God. God is not the one that causes our stress. He actually says, come and lay your head on my chest, lay down at my feet, and I will provide you with peace that passes all understanding. But see, we don't do that. We want this and that, right? We want to say that we're surrendering to God, and also we want things to happen on our timeline. Yes, yes? So today we're going to be focusing on when God feels absence, the depth of faith required to keep walking. So who wants to keep walking, even though it's a challenge? Who wants to keep walking, even though you feel like you're at your wit's end? Who is committed to keep walking this path? Put a heart in the comments, because we're going to get moving and I'm going to light my candle. So that was the introduction. Good morning, Stardust 91364. So light your candle. Make sure that you have your coffee. I love you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I missed you guys. I was gone for 4 days. It's a long time. Okay, light your candle. Get your coffee. Okay, I've got my Crush. I've got my Crush coffee. I've got my Bible. So the scripture that we're going to be focusing on is John 20, verse 29. John 20, verse 29. So the context of this scripture is that Jesus, this is that chapter, this is that part of John where Jesus disappears out of the tomb. So he's gone. And nobody can find him. Mary Magdalene is losing her marbles because she thinks that somebody has taken his body. And the disciples everybody's confused. Everybody's confused because they had rolled a stone. Remember that the government had said, put a stone in front of his tomb to make sure that he can't get out, to make sure that nobody can get him. And so they rolled a monster stone in front of his tomb. And yet, when they went to visit, he wasn't there. And so Mary Magdalene is losing her mind. She thinks that somebody has taken Jesus. And the disciples go running back to find out where Jesus went. And she looks in the tomb and she sees 2 angels, one at the head of the place where he was lying and one at the foot. And they said, why are you crying? What's up? What's wrong? And she said, my master is gone. And he said, no. And the angel said, no, he's risen. And then check this out. This is why I love Mary Magdalene. She's crying and she's upset. And Jesus says to her, I actually don't want to paraphrase it because it's so good. This is John 20. Okay. Jesus, she thought he was the gardener. So she turns around because he says, dear woman, why are you crying? Jesus asked, who are you looking for? And she thought he was the gardener. And she said, sir, if you've taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him. And Jesus says, Mary. And she turned to him and cried out, Rabboni, which is Hebrew for teacher. Don't cling to me, Jesus said, for I haven't yet ascended to the Father. But go find my brothers, being the disciples, and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. And Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, I have seen the Lord. Then she gave them the message. So this is that chapter, the one where he's risen up, and everybody's confused and in shock because their faith, even though he told them that he would rise, even though they knew that he would rise, they still lost their faith. One of the deepest levels of faith in believing God is present when everything around you suggests otherwise. Many people can trust God when prayers are being answered, doors are opening, and miracles are happening. But what happens when heaven feels silent? See, for 3 days, it was silent. For 3 days, they didn't hear anything. God didn't say anything. The angels didn't descend to tell them what was going on. It was silent. And it is when it is silent that we are to pay the most attention. What happens when your prayers seem unanswered? What happened when God feels absent. Jesus teaches us, listen to this. Jesus teaches us that true faith is not built on constant reassurance. It is built on trust. Listen, if you're building a business, if you're in a hard time financially, if you're in a marriage that you're working on, if your children are deceiving you, or if they're betraying you, or if they're distant, there's 1,000,001. If somebody that you love is in trouble, there are 1,000,001 reasons why we can feel that God is absent. And we want reassurance. But what he's saying is trust. See, he didn't send the disciples or Mary Magdalene any reassurance when Jesus died. There were 3 days that were absolutely silent. And they were all grieving. They were all heartbroken. They could barely breathe. They heard nothing. Imagine how betrayed they would have felt. But then God has a plan that's greater than any plan that they could ever even contrive, which was he's going to bring Jesus back to them so that they can see him again. So it wasn't just knowledge that he was going to ascend, but it was, here he is again. They would have never thought of that. They would have never thought, oh, he's probably going to come back down and hang out with us for a while. It's always better. But we have to be willing to wait. And this is what I said to my client yesterday. I said, listen, this whole thing is going to end better than any possible solution that you could contrive. But it's going to be quiet for a while. Because while God's working on that, he's working on you. Because sissy, your faith is not strong enough. So where is your faith right now? This is a good question for you to ask yourself. Where's your faith? Are you fully faithful? Do you just know in your heart of hearts? Do you give it all up to God? Do you let him take control? Or do you always try to manipulate? Do you always try to take control over what is not yours to control? Won't he do it? That's right, Sarah. So point number 1, faith, put this down, write this down, okay? Get out your pen, get out your journal. Write this down. Faith believes God is working, even when we cannot see it. That's what faith is. So see, yesterday she said, I feel like God is absent because he's not working, right? Like her belief was that God wasn't working because she couldn't see it. But his greatest work is underground before it appears above ground. You guys, Jesus was alive for 30 years. He only lived to be 33. But he lived for 30 years before he did any ministry. Think about that. He was being nurtured. His ministry was growing within him. He was observing human behavior. God was working. He was setting up all the people. He was setting up the disciples. He was setting up the situation. He was setting it all up. 30 years before his ministry started. So you can imagine that he was patiently waiting for the sign to go. And it wasn't happening. And it wasn't happening. And it wasn't happening. And it makes you think, I wonder if he ever thought, is this a real thing? Like, what's going on? And then boom, he has 3 years that are so massive that we're still reading about it. So don't you think for 1 minute, sissy, that your silent season means that you're done. Because God's building behind the scenes, but you have to have faith. You have to, in order for this to work, you have to be a child of God. In order for this to work, you actually have to commit your life to God. Otherwise, I'm not speaking to you. Because the reality is, this is the work that God does for those who have faith. He doesn't like when we come in and try to control. In fact, he might even dig his heels in a little bit. We often want evidence before we believe. But Jesus asks us to believe before there's evidence. Think about it. Remember when he was in the boat? One of my favorite stories of all time. I talk about it all the time. Remember when he was in the boat? Come on. With the disciples, and there was a big storm, and he was sleeping, and they were so upset because they thought they were going to die, and they were questioning him. And he said, "Oh, ye of little faith, do you still have little faith?" And he calmed the waters, and then they saw it. But what he wanted for them to do was to know that he would keep them safe. After Jesus was crucified, everything appeared lost. Let's talk about after Jesus was crucified. The disciples believed the story was over. Everybody was crying, everybody was sobbing, everybody was grieving. The tomb was sealed, the miracle seemed dead. There were 3 days of silence. But while everyone thought God was absent, God was actually accomplishing the greatest victory ever. He was about to raise him up. Something that was the greatest miracle. And then he would ascend to heaven. What? Like he was setting up a masterpiece. He wasn't going small on this one. He was setting up a masterpiece. Not only would Jesus rise from the dead, because of course they had seen that. So that was for the disciples maybe not such a big deal. But for him to ascend to heaven, that's a whole other thing, right? The resurrection was happening in silence. So here's a question that I want you to ask yourself. What if God is working in ways I cannot currently see? And I asked this to my client last night. I said, what if he's got a plan going on behind the scenes that will blow your ever-loving mind, but you just can't see it, therefore you don't believe it's happening? And she's a woman of strong faith. So we had a really open and honest conversation about the fact that she is not actively in her faith right now. And that was a hard conversation. It's really wavering. And I saw it happen with my dad when my mom died. My dad really questioned whether God was present. And that's never the question. It's that he doesn't always give us what we want. And so we instantly think he's absent. But those aren't the same. God being present and God giving us what we want, which is usually not even the best case scenario. Because how many of you have asked for that same sloppy guy to come back? How many of you have asked for, I don't know, for some relationship to heal, when really it was the worst, most toxic, most destructive relationship that you've ever been in? Or you want something that you know isn't good for you? How many times have you asked for things that you know aren't good for you? Maybe it's the lazy way. Can you just drop $1 million in my bank account? Right? Can you just heal the relationship with me and between me and my children? Maybe your children have a lesson to learn. Maybe that relationship actually needs to be strained so that they grow. Because people don't grow when everything is perfect. Right? We grow through trials, we grow through lessons, we grow through adversity. That's when we grow. That's when we build resilience and grit and all the things that we talked about last week. So what's really important is that we understand that God's working behind the scenes. While he's working on it, he's working on us. We can't carry half the stuff that we want. I laugh when people say, I wish, God would just drop $1 million in my bank account. I'm like, if he did, it would be gone in a day, because you don't even have your money. You don't even have your money figured out. You don't know how to manage that money. You can't even manage $500. You get $500 and you go blow it all. You can't even handle $500. How are you going to handle $1 million? So he knows what he's doing. Here's another question. Have I mistaken delay for denial? Maybe there's a delay because there needs to be a delay. Maybe there's a storm. Maybe if things actually went the way that you wanted them to go, there would be a crisis. Have you ever turned left instead of turning right? Or have you ever made a decision and then afterwards you heard that something really bad happened? I have. Like, I turned right instead of left, and I found out later that there was a big accident. And I'm like, I wonder if that's why the strong intuition was for me to turn right, not left. And I listened. Have you ever noticed how God has saved you through something that looked like inconvenience or delay? Anyone? Has anybody ever seen the grace of God work through his delay? I sure have. Oh, baby, have I ever. What miracle might be developing beneath the surface? So this challenge that you're going through, this hardship that you're going through, let's look at it from the other side for a minute. What possible outcome could he be working on? What would be the best case scenario for you? Now, first of all, I want you to know that whatever your best case scenario is, God takes that and he 10x's it. But what would be your best case scenario? Put it in the comments. Good morning, Amy. Put your best case scenario in the comments. Your child is healed. You find lucrative work. You find a home that is comfortable and safe for you and your family. You find true love. Like, what's the outcome that you're looking for? Because I can promise you, it's developing below the surface. You guys, I remember, 3 or 4 months ago, saying to a few close friends of mine and my mentor, I said, I feel that my man is coming. I said, I really feel it. I feel like my person is coming. I could feel it. I said, but he's working on me still. I still have some things that I need to work on. I still have some challenges and I still have some things that I want to get cleared up, but I feel that he's coming. And I was so certain that I kept thanking him. I kept saying, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for what's coming. Thank you for what I can feel is on its way. I was already thanking him for the man I had not met yet. I just started saying, I feel you coming, baby. I feel you coming. Thank you. Just keep walking toward me and I'll keep being obedient and I'll keep doing all the things that I know I need to do in order to carry that kind of love, in order to carry that kind of commitment. I'm just plugging my phone in. I'm just gonna keep doing it. And so what's so beautiful about that is that through that, I really believe that he was delivered. And I just go, this man, he's not perfect, but he's amazing. And he's perfect for me in this time in my life. And I was like, and I told him when I saw him this weekend, I said, I knew you were coming, baby. I knew that you were on your way. I could feel it. And he said, really? I said, yep. And he said, because I almost didn't go on the dating app. I said, doesn't matter. I knew you were on your way and there was a plan. And I could have never imagined that he would be the person, but he's better than what I had expected. He is such a love. He's such a good man for me. And one of the things I love about him is he's strong. He's got a strong will and he's not a pushover and he keeps me on my toes, because I can have a strong personality and I can be a little bit like, this is how I want things. And he's very secure in who he is and he knows what he wants. He won't have any of that. So sometimes you get what you need and not always what you want. Because some of the relationships that I've had in the past, I felt like I was calling all the shots and it wasn't always fair, I think, upon reflection, right? I was doing my best at the time. I never did anything to anybody on purpose to hurt them. But I see now that I needed somebody who led me. So this is really interesting that we get what we need from God, and he'll give it to us when we're ready to carry it. And I'm in a position now where I can carry this. I feel confident that I can carry it and that I'm going to be the best partner that I've ever been. And I don't know that I could have said that 6 months ago. So he's always working behind the scenes. Just because you cannot see God working doesn't mean he isn't. So whatever it is that you want, whether it's love, whether it's a thriving business, whether it's ministry, whether it's peace in your home, whether it's peace in your heart, whether it's a healed body, whatever it is, just because you can't see him working on it doesn't mean he's not. Do you know that I was on that dating app? And it's I was on Facebook dating. It's a free dating app. And I was like, whatever. Nothing's ever going to come of it. And do you know that he just dropped in my DMs? Like, just dropped in out of the sky. Dropped in. When God knew I was ready. So there were no signs that he was coming. We hadn't been introduced by anybody. He just dropped in like a bat out of hell. So 1 minute, I don't know this person. The next minute, my life is about to change. It's like that. That's how God works. And the interesting thing is about the phone call that I had yesterday with my sister, friend, client, whomever you want to call her, all the above, because I connected her with somebody who I think can really help her. And I said to her, do you know that this is why you asked me to call you? Because I actually believe that God was working. You were saying, I'm not feeling like God's there. I'm feeling really alone. And then I went, I have somebody that you can talk to. And I connected them. And this person said, here's my number, tell her to call me. And I went back into the messages and I said, this was God. This is God saying, I haven't left the building. You left the building. But we have to take action. So she took action. She reached out to me. God knew what he was doing. He said, you're going to set her up with this person. Thank you very much. I'm still in the room with her. She just doesn't understand my journey. She doesn't understand my plan. You guys, we don't have to understand. We don't have to understand anything. Baby, we don't want to understand it. Sometimes the information might scare us away. You know? It might be a little much for us to think about. Like, who knows? If God had said, listen, you're going to meet a man who's in Wisconsin, and you're going to have to drive 6 hours to go see him, and he's going to have to drive 6 hours to go see you, I might have said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do long distance, because I wasn't really looking for long distance, but he was right on the cusp of you know how you set, for those of you on dating apps, you know how you have to set a distance. You have to set like how far you'll go. He was right on the edge. I'm not even kidding. I put 500 miles or 500 kilometers. He's like 487. You can't make this stuff up. If God had come in and said, I've got this great guy, but I just want to talk to you first. See what you think. He's a tall glass of water. He's 6'4". He's 61. He's handsome. He's dog lover. He's all these amazing things, but he's 6 hours away. I might have said, no. So what God did was God put him in front of me first. See? So he drove to me and we went for dinner. And there was no way I could say no to that man. God knew what he was doing. You guys, God knows what he's doing. Stop acting like a victim. You're not a victim. We all have loss. We all experience grief and death. Everybody dies, so the people that we love are going to die at some point. Don't be a victim. Have so much radical faith that you say to God, this season is really testing me. You're really testing me. You're like pushing all of my edges right now. But I know, because I've seen you do it in the Bible, and I've seen you do it with my friends, and I've seen you do it in my own life and other times, and I know you've got something. I know you've got a plan, and it's gonna blow my ever-loving mind, but right now, can I just tell you, this is a lot. You guys, don't you think that Jesus was like, I'm done? Can we just be done? This is a lot. Everything that he went through on his way to the cross was hell. Absolute hell. Plus he waited 30 years for it to even happen. Like when I thought about that today, I thought, you know what? Jesus didn't do ministry for the first 30 years of his life and he died at 33. Sometimes I think we act like spoiled brats. He waited 30 years before he even opened his mouth in ministry. And here we get upset because things aren't happening in 6 months. You know what I'm saying? That's something to think about. Okay, point number 2. Faith continues to obey even without immediate results. Many people follow God as they see quick outcomes. Like, oh, look at God just performed a miracle in my life. And they get so excited about God and they get all lit up. You know what? It's easy to get excited about God when things are going well. But when things aren't going well, we all know it's hard to get excited about God. Deep faith obeys before results appear. And here's an example. For 30 years, Jesus lived in relative obscurity, okay? Meaning that nobody knew who he was really. He wasn't anybody special. 30 years, no crowds, no influence, no ministry, no miracles. We forget about this. No public platform, no 12 disciples around him. 30 years. 30 years. He was nobody. But some people knew who he was. Most of his life was preparation. Most of his life. What if I was to say to you, most of your life, for the majority of your life, you're going to be in preparation. But the last 3 years of your life are going to be so incredible that people are not going to stop talking about you for 2,000 years. How would you feel about that? For the next 30 years of your life, you're going to be in preparation. You're not going to see any of the fruit. You're going to feel things, but for the next 30 years, God's preparing you. But for the last 3 years of your life, you are going to have such a freaking mind-blowing life. You are going to have such an impact on people. And you'll turn around and say, what? Now I get it. Think about that. See, for most of us, that makes us really uncomfortable because we don't want to wait 30 years. We want it now. We're like, yeah, but I'm 57. I don't have 30 years. Yeah, you do. Because see, Jesus died at 33. So most of his life, 9/10 of his life, or 10/11 of his life, he was in preparation. 1 fraction of his life, he was actually in the ministry. Wow. That's a lot to absorb. What I'm saying is, you don't know the timeline, baby, so you have to have faith. He remained obedient to God's timing. He did not force doors open. He trusted God's schedule. Because remember, he was coming to be the King of the Jews, right? At the time, like he was coming. He was divinely chosen, and Mary was divinely chosen because he was going to change the world. However, there were 30 years that God worked on him so that he could be the man that did the incredible things that he did. Imagine what God was doing inside of him so that he could heal people. And it's actually kind of mind-blowing to think about. So here's a question for you. Are you frustrated because God's timing isn't your timing? Like, dig into your heart. Are you frustrated? Because if so, A, you need to ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I don't trust you. And then B, time to trust, right? Time to release, time to let it go. Have you become discouraged because things haven't happened the way that you want them to happen? What if God is developing you? What if he's preparing you right now? Can you trust that season? And can you trust yourself in that season? Good morning, Chris Foster. Can you trust yourself to carry yourself with grace, to not make stupid moves, to be obedient, even though it's not going on your timeline? Can you be obedient for that long? You know, like if you want to date a really good man, if you want to have a really sacred relationship, can you wait 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 30 years for him? Or are you going to go date a bunch of slime balls in the meantime? Because if so, that guy's not going to come. See, I had to create a path, a clear path for this guy. I had to stop dating men that were not aligned. And I had to open up the path of alignment. And he slid in with such ease. But the path had to be clear for him. I had to be really, really clear about what I wanted. And God said, here you go. Now, neither of us have a crystal ball. So I'm always very careful, right? So everything is amazing now, and that's all that matters. But we both see that it was divinely led, but we waited. We both waited about 2 years. It was about a 2-year window for both of us, which felt like a long time when everybody around you is all paired off, right? God's delays are often his preparation, you guys. Okay, point number 3. Faith chooses trust over feelings. Feelings are real, for sure. But feelings are not always reliable. We feel them, but they're not always reliable. Faith must eventually rise above emotion. You know, guys, I have that one of my favorite quotes is, low intelligence, high emotion. High emotion, low intelligence. What does that mean? That when we're emotionally charged up, when we're all worked up, we don't always make the best decisions. When we let our emotions lead, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm jealous, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm angry, I want retaliation, I hate somebody. When we have highly charged emotions, we don't make smart decisions. So when we have stable emotions, when we understand that our emotions exist but they're not reliable, that they're probably based on untruth, they're going to be fueled by our trauma, they're going to be fueled by other people's opinions. Have you ever sat in a room and you were fine and then somebody made you angry about something? You're like, that just makes me angry, you know? And now all of a sudden you're angry. And you weren't angry when you got there, but now you're angry and frustrated and you're like, that just ruined my day. Like, we will pick up emotion from other people and run with it. The point is, when we have control over our emotions, we understand where they're coming from, then we can make wise decisions based not on emotion, but on truth. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus was overwhelmed with sorrow, and he prayed, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. He did not feel strong. He did not feel excited. He did not feel victorious. Yet he surrendered because he said, not my will, but yours be done. Even in his he wasn't highly charged. Even in his emotional state, it was more humble than highly charged. He was more humble than highly charged. He was more sad than angry. He said to God, I feel this way and I understand that it's my humanness. So you do what you need to do because you're the wise one. And sure enough, God went through with it. He went back 3 times to ask God, and God every time was like, nothing's changing. Because there's a bigger picture here, you guys. Faith isn't pretending you're okay. Faith is choosing God when you're not okay. And this is what I was talking to my client about yesterday. I said, see, here's this thing, is that you're going through a hard time right now. And so as a result, you're stepping away from your faith. In other words, not she wasn't stepping away from God, but she was stepping away from her faith in God. And I said, but you need to get closer than ever. You need to be trusting him in the middle of this. That's where he's going to come in and help. So you guys, we got it all wrong. We think if we get angry at God and we show him that he's going to come in. Do you realize that that's the opposite of how it works with God? The further we get from him, the more difficult it is for him to work in our lives. So it's up to us to go to him. He's not going anywhere. He's the stable parent who says, I'll always be here. Nothing that you can do will ever make me stop loving you. But if you go, you got to come back. Hi, Michael. Okay. So I have 2 more points, but I think I'll roll them over into tomorrow. Do you guys feel like this would be a good topic for us to talk about tomorrow? Because I want to close off and then I've got a few announcements. So I think we'll go into day 2 of this because this is a really relevant conversation. And you can go home and you can do the questions. If you look on my social media, we'll post the questions on the social media today. So if my moderators can just help me remember that we're going to post the questions on the social media so that people have something to look at. It'll be in the stories. Okay, so here's the closing. The reality is that every believer will eventually walk through a season where God feels absent. It's going to happen to all of us. A season where prayers seem unanswered. A season where heaven feels quiet. A season where faith is tested. But Jesus showed us what to do. He's such a good example. He trusted when he couldn't see. He obeyed when it was hard. He surrendered when it hurt. He remained faithful when heaven seemed silent. Thank you for the gifts. And because he did, we have a model for our own lives. We get to use Jesus as a model. I love using him as a model. It really helps me make decisions. The depth of your faith is not measured by how loudly you praise when your prayers are answered. Everybody loves to do that on social media. They get really loud and they talk about how God answered their prayers. But you don't hear a lot of people coming in and saying, I'm praying extra hard this week because the thing that I want I'm not seeing it. I don't see it happening. So I'm going in even heavier. I'm going even harder. I'm getting even closer, right? We don't like to do that. We don't like to talk about the fact that we're not getting what we want. We want everybody to think that we have everything that we want, but God knows that we don't. The depth of your faith is measured by whether you still trust when you don't understand. When God feels absent, faith says, I will trust what I know about God's character more than what I currently feel. I will trust what I know about God's character more than what I currently feel. Because my feelings are all over the map. Because the same God who seemed silent on Friday was raising Jesus on Sunday. That's the same God that we have access to. And the same God who feels silent in your story today is writing your next chapter. You guys, it's not done. You're not dead. It's not done. He is not done with you. So we were going to have a call tonight. Big announcement. We were going to have a call tonight for Awaken, right? Everybody who was on the Awaken Challenge last week, which was so good. I'm going to do a recap actually today in my stories. So watch for that. Everybody who was on the Awaken Challenge, I got lots of incredible feedback. We were going to do a live call tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. To be honest, I traveled all day yesterday. I drove all day. I got home super late and I woke up this morning and I was like, I am really, really like brain dead. So we're moving that call to Thursday. Now, the reason why that works is because we have the last Thursday of every month here in Uncommon Woman Land, we do what's called a God's Girl guest call. What does that mean? Everybody's invited to a Zoom with me, everybody. But what you have to do is you have to go to romymarlowe.com and you go to, when you go to the home homepage, there's going to be a pop-up that's going to take you to the Uncommon Woman page. You scroll all the way down and you register for the God's Girl Gazette, which puts you on the email list that will give you all of the information and the access to that call. So let me say that again. I'm probably going to have my web designer put a God's Girl guest call like button so that you guys can see it right away. But it's the same thing. So you go to RomieMarlowe.com, you touch the Uncommon Woman page, or it'll pop up, wait for the pop-up, and you scroll all the way to the bottom, and you're gonna see a form that says God Girl Gazette. You put your email in there. That email will get you all of the information that you need to get on the call on Thursday. So the call is Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. So the God's Girl guest call is actually gonna be the Awaken wrap-up. I feel like those two things could go together really well. So if you're planning on coming to call tonight, it's Thursday. And if you can't get on the call because you're on, thank you, we're almost at 10,000 hearts. Let's keep going. But because you're on that email list, if you can't be on the call, you will get the recording of the call. So join the God's Girl Gazette. Go to RomieMarlowe.com. I know that my mods have put the link in the comments where they can. You can copy, paste it, or click it, whatever works. Go all the way down the page and insert your email address in the form, okay? That's how you will get the information. So that's happening on Thursday at 7. And then we still have the Uncommon Woman Sisterhood June promotion. So if you want to be part of our sisterhood, our community where women heal and rise and connect, and we build sisterhood and friendship and relationships, and it's a safe place where women can come in and get really honest and say things that they might not say at other tables, and get the kind of support that you for sure probably won't get at most tables. Join Uncommon Woman Sisterhood, and it's the same page. You go to RomieMarlowe.com, and it's on the Uncommon Woman page. It pops up as soon as you go to my website. You don't even have to do anything, okay? And you can put in the coupon code June10, all uppercase, and you save $10 in your first month, which is $19 for the first month. And then after that, it's $29 a month, okay? We meet monthly. We have a Facebook group. We have 3 calls a month. We have a prayer call now. What else do we have? We have Uncommon Mamas, which is a group for women with children with autism. We're just getting started in there. Like it's a brand new ministry and a brand new group, but we would love to see you in there. And we get a lot of messages from people saying, hey, I really want to join. You guys join. We spend so much money on junk that we don't use. We need to invest in ourselves. $29 for a month works out to less than $1 a day. It's like 80 cents a day. But you have access to other women at any time. It is such a powerful space. Okay, thank you to my Uncommon hosts, my moderators. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. So tomorrow we're going to dive into part 2 of When God Feels Absent, because this is a really important topic. And I feel like if we're going to talk about this, then we need to actually really dive into it, because I know that so many of you are feeling like God is absent, that you're not getting the answers that you want, you're not getting the results that you want in your life, and you feel alone, and you feel betrayed, or you feel like God is overlooking you and he's taking care of everybody else. I promise you, he's not. Thank you for the stars. I don't know who sent the stars. Was that you, Renee? Somebody did. You guys, thank you. It was. I love you guys. Okay. And by the way, I also do one-on-one coaching and mentorship for women who are really wanting to move through this season in their life and feel confident and courageous and use your voice and step into your power, start your ministry, or you need strategy, or you need support. So I do one-on-one as well as group coaching. So if you're interested in coming in and working with me one-on-one, just send an email to info@theuncommonwoman.com, and we'll jump on a call or we'll get you hooked up, okay? I love you guys. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard for Uncommon Ministry. I love you. Bye. We did it. We did the 10K. Yay. Thank you, everybody. I just saw that now. Thank you. Amazing. Bye.